very good evening, Zimbabwe. Welcome to LiveTalk Women's Roundtable, where we speak about issues affecting women. We're coming to you live from Studio 7 at the Voice of America in Washington this Thursday, February the 2nd, 2023. I'm your host, Marvelous Mhlanga-Nyahuye. Tonight on Live Talk, we are discussing about the future of Zimbabweans in South Africa whose special permits end on June 30th. A large number of more than 180,000 holders of these special permits are women who fled Zimbabwe because of political violence and economic hardships. Today, the Zimbabwean embassy in South Africa held a meeting to address the issue of repatriation of those whose special Zimbabwean permits are not renewed by June 30th. Zimbabwe's ambassador to South Africa, David Hamadziripi, said the government is going to assist those willing to return home and will be conducting a mapping exercise this month and next month to identify those who wish to return home. They said it will also be profiling some high-powered women running programs that empower other women and young girls in the country. Nasi tiri kutarisa zviri kuitika munyaya dzemagwaro ekugara munyika yeSouth Africa eZimbabwe exemption permits ayo ari kupera muna chikumi. Mumiriri weZimbabwe muSouth Africa vaDavid Hamadziripi vaudza vatori venhau neveruzhinji kuti muzinda weZimbabwe munyika iyi wakagadzirira kubatsira zvizvarwa zveZimbabwe zviri kuda kudzokera kumusha mukupera kwachikumi gore rino pachimiswa magwaro ekushandisa eZimbabwe exemption permit nehurumende yeSouth Africa. VaHamadziripi vati muzinda wavo uchashandisa mwedzi uno newakukadzi newakurima kunyoresa vanoda kubatsirwa kuti vadzokere kumusha. Vanhu vakawandisa vari kutarisana nedambudziko iri madzimai achitaurawo nemadzimai ari kuita zvirongwa. Tichataurawo nemadzimai ari kuita zvirongwa zvinobatsira mamwe madzimai nevanasikana munyika. But first, we start our show by looking at Zimbabwe, which is attempting to revive its agricultural sector with support from controversial partner Belarus, which is under sanctions for supporting Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko visited Zimbabwe this week on his first trip to sub-Saharan Africa. Columbus Mavunga reports from Harare.
After years of letting the country's farmers mostly plow and seed their fields by hand, Zimbabwe's government has started large-scale mechanization of its agriculture industry, which has suffered from low productivity for years. The equipment comes from Belarus. 28-year-old farmer Mufudzi Madzorera received a tractor and is encouraging others to use agricultural machinery too.
I managed to do over 100 hectares of land. I ripped it and plowed it at my own time, at my own pace. And it's way better than hiring out. Hiring out, it consumes time and honestly it becomes more expensive. Owning your own tractor is cheaper because the government of Zimbabwe is then giving us an option whereby you can pay for this in a period of 5 years.
Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko visited Zimbabwe on January 3rd, bringing with him 1,000 tractors and other agriculture equipment.
Но мы готовы всегда помогать вам.
Despite the distance that separates us, we are ready to cooperate with you, to get everything you need, to give you a helping hand, anywhere, anytime, help you address all the issues, all the problems that you have.
Belarus is the subject of US and European sanctions for supporting Russia's war on Ukraine, something Zimbabwe's president addressed.
Both Belarus and Zimbabwe are serious candidates of sanctions. So it is not surprising to see victims of sanctions cooperating.
The US The EU and other Western nations imposed sanctions on Zimbabwe's leadership in the early 2000s following reports of election rigging and human rights abuses. Political analyst Alexander Rusero explains why he thinks Zimbabwe has turned to Belarus.
Zimbabwe is trying to modulate isolation, to modulate sanctions by going to those states that Zimbabwe perceives to be safer and better to deal with, because those kinds of dealings, they do not come with any form of conditionalities such as democracy, such as issues of human rights, etc., which normally the West insists on.
Agriculture was once Zimbabwe's economic backbone until the land reform program of late President Robert Mugabe drove experienced farmers off their land in the early 2000s and sent farm production into a downward spiral. With help from Belarus, the government hopes it can revive the sector and rejuvenate the long-struggling economy. Columbus Mavungam for VOA News, Harare, Zimbabwe.
The Zimbabwean government says it will help all Zimbabweans living in South Africa who will be forced to return home after the expiry of their special permits in South Africa on June the 30th. Addressing the media today in Pretoria, Zimbabwe's ambassador to South Africa, David Hamadziripe, said his office will be conducting a mapping exercise in March 2023 to identify and register permit holders who wish to return to Zimbabwe. But economists are warning that Zimbabwe does not have the capacity to assist the more than 180,000 permit holders and their families to return home. Tusa Kumalo files this report from Pretoria in South Africa.
Ekhuluma labezindaba ePretoria lamhlanje ummeli weZimbabwe kule South Africa umnumzana David Hamadziripe uthi uhulumende weZimbabwe usezilungiselele ukwemukela labo abazakhetha ukubuyela ekhaya. Uthe sebevule ikhasi ebulenjini be-internet lapho bonke abafuna ukubuyela ekhaya kuzafuze babhalise ugoqela lokubhalisa uncedo abaludinga uhulumende weZimbabwe kulolu hambo. Ngemva kwalolu hlelo kuzalandela olokuvulwa kwendawo zokubhalisa ezabelweni zonke zakwele South Africa.
Some ZIP holders have decided they want to go back to Zimbabwe and they need assistance.
Vanengi abalama permit la asebethe bafuna ukuphindela ekhaya. Yibo labo esithi kubo uhulumende weZimbabwe ufuna ukulisiza wozani,
giving you the opportunity to be able to take advantage of that assistance and facilitation that we can give.
Umnumzana Hamadziripe uvumile ukuthi ukubuyela ekhaya lokho kuzaphazamisa abantwana besikolo. Uthe uncedo abaluphayo lugoqela ukuphathisa ngamabhasi okuhambisa ulabo abalesidingo esedlulisa amalawulo, ukudlulisa impahla zabo emngceleni zingathelanga lokunye. Ezinye izalwane zeZimbabwe sezemukele leli nyathelo. Isizalwane seZimbabwe umnumzana Lizwe Gwebo uthi lolu hlelo luzasiza ukuthi asebexotshiwe laba kwele South Africa babuyele ekhaya ngesizotha.
Siyakujabulela kakhulu makula ama programs angaka lokho zababalazo bezizoba nzima ukuthi zizohamba njani. Okunye kwakhona yikho kwenza ukuthi abantu begcine bengahambi kakhulu okukhulunywa ngabantwana ukuthi kulenhlelo ezenziwayo for ukuthi batransfer abantwana from this side bakwazi ukufika bangene isikolo bengahluphekanga. Mina ngibona ngani sebejabulele kakhulu lokho.
Umnumzana Buthelezwe Nyathi okhokhela iqembu leBoots elilwela ukuthi abaxoxwayo laba babuyele ngenhlonipho laye uthi basemukela ngezandla zombili isimemezelo sommeli weZimbabwe eSouth Africa.
Ngithanda ukuthi sibonge kakhulu umsebenzi lo oyenziwa yi-government yaseZimbabwe through i-embassy lapha eSouth Africa. Thina siyi-Boots emelela ukuthi abantu kufanele bebuyele ekhaya isithunzi sabo sihlangene, hayi ukuthi bediphothwa. Siyabonga kakhulu ukuthi i-embassy iyeza le-government yeZimbabwe izama ukuthi incedisane nathi.
Kodwa-ke sinesizalwane seZimbabwe umnumzana Jabunyathi uthi lo banje elemukela leli nyathelo kuyingozi ukubuyisela izinkulungwane zezizalwane zeZimbabwe ekhaya kungalungiswanga izinto ezabaxotsha elizweni.
Kodwa kunento leyo ukuthi yini ebangela ukuthi abantu babaleke emizini yabo bazo. If into edlame into leyo imele ilungiswe. because akuzukusiza ukuthi abantu babuyele bayohlala or bayobhadla phakathi kodlame lo owenza ukuthi babaleke. If into yomnotho abantu bangazama ukuze baziphilele if into yomnotho, but into engakho emele ilungiswe ingaba into yodlame. Kusenjalo udaba lolabo abaphikisa ukuxotshwa kwabeZimbabwe laba kwele South Africa luzangena emthethwandaba ngomabasa. Ingcithi zithi kungenzeka umthethwandaba usesule isinqumo sokuxotshwa kwabeZimbabwe laba, kumbe udlulisele phambili isikhathi sokuxotshwa kwabo, kumbe uvumelane alesinqumo. Melesitulo 7 ePretoria wele South Africa nginguthuso Khumalo.
Now let's take a short break. Please don't go away. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
For those that have just joined us, please note that we are streaming live on all our Facebook pages, VOA Shona, VOA Studio 7 and VOA Ndebele, and we're also live on YouTube, VOA Zimbabwe. We are now joined by our guest, Diana Zimbabweans Chambara, the programs manager for the Zimbabwe Exiles Forum in South Africa. And we also have a Skype guest who will be coming later on. But welcome to the program, Mr. Zimbabweans.
Thank you very much for the invite.
Yes, we saw that there was a meeting at the embassy in South Africa today, and also the embassy is saying that it is willing to provide buses for those that wish to come back home to Zimbabwe. That's what they were saying at that meeting today. But I know that the burning issue today is that of people being forced to return to Zimbabwe. How is the mood in South Africa, Ms. Zimbabweans Chambara?
For those who have already decided to go, it's a good initiative. But for those who have decided not to go, well, nothing will change. Whatever the embassy says, they will remain put. But those who are already putting plans in place to return to Zimbabwe of their own accord, it's a good initiative because now they will do so at a lesser cost than they had initially planned.
Mm-hmm. And staying with you, Mrs. Zimbabweans Chambara, what are people doing, especially women in South Africa, to have this issue resolved so that people are not forced to return to Zimbabwe?
Well, there's people in general and women in particular, especially those with school-going children. There's a pending court case that they are waiting. It's rolling on. It hasn't been finalized. It's still within the court row. And so most of these women now are hoping that the court will rule in their favor. That is one thing. The other aspect is that now there's a lot of women who are thinking of going elsewhere, not particularly Zimbabwe. In fact, from what we have seen, they are now preferring to go to the UK. The word on the streets is that the UK is in need of care workers. So most of them are saying by the time my permit expires, I should have migrated to the United Kingdom.
Tombotaura nerurimi rwamai kuti tiri kuona zviri kutaurwa neembassy izvi, asi tingatarise kuti imomo muSouth Africa zvakamira sei takatarisa nyanya madzimai panguva ino panyaya iyi yekudzokera kumusha?
Madzimai vamwe vacho vanoda kudzokera kumusha. Avo ndo vakanga vatogara vakaronga kare kuti hayi nepanopera mapemisi aya ndodzokera zvangu. Asi vanga vasina kuronga kuti vanoda kudzokera kumusha, ivo vari kuti zvataurwa neembasi zvinei navo nekuti ivo havadzokeri. Saka ivavo vakatotiwo one day. Kozoita kune vamwe vari kuti ivo aiwa isusu zvekucharamba tichagara muno hatichadi, asi hatidzokere kuZimbabwe. Saka vari kutiwo vakuenda kumhiri kwemakungwa uko kuchando kuti vanotsvagawo cheuviri vari ikoko. Saka ndo mamiriro akaita zvinhu pari zvino. Asi chimwe chiri kuita kuti vamwe vanhu vati hatidzokeri pari zvino ndechekuti nyaya iyi yemapemisi ichapinda mumatare. Saka paichapinda mumatare ndo pachazobuda kuti vanhu zvaatopera here kana kuti pane chimwe chichabudapo. Saka vanhu vari kumirira kuti vazokuti matare anotonga achiti kudini. Kana matare achinge atonga apedza izvozvo, vanhu vamwe vanozoona kuti vangaite sei, kuti voramba vari muno kana kuti vobuda zvavo voenda kumusha kana kuti vobuda zvavo voenda kune dzimwe nyika.
Saka ava vari kutaura zvekuenda kuchando, ndinoona madzimai akawanda padande mutande. Vari kuzvifambisa sei vari kubva imomo muSouth Africa?
Vazhinji vacho vari kuitawo makosi yayaya. Vamwe vacho vanotsvagurudza muno macho kuti zvinoitwa kupi, voita vari muno. Vamwewo ndo vari kubva vatombotuta zvezvishomanana vodzokera kumusha, vonoita makosi acho vari kumusha, nokuti kunonzi kunodiwa English ka chirungu. Kunonzi unofanira kunge uchigona chirungu. Kozonzi kunodiwa certificate yacho yeK-work. Saka izvo zvese izvozvo zvinenge zvichibhadharwa zvakare. Saka vamwe vanenge vachitarisa kuti vakakonvheta mari dzacho neUS dollar inoshandiswa kumusha nerandi rinoshandiswa kuno kuri chipande kupi, voita zvavanoita. Asi vanhu kumagurupu ikoko nekumaofisi kwedu vanova vachitotibvunzawo kuti ndingaite sei kuti ndiendewo kuchando kuri kuenda vamwe. Vari kuona kunge zvekuchando zvinenge zviri nani pane muno.
Bata yenyu makadaro. We are lucky, I understand we now have our second guest, Mai Muchanyara Cynthia Mukamuri, the General Secretary of the Young Women's Christian Association of Zimbabwe. Welcome to the program.
Thank you and greetings.
Greetings. We've been trying to get you over Skype, but I'm glad that we did get you over the phone. So the big topic here that we were talking about is the women, especially that may be returning to Zimbabwe from South Africa. But as your organization, how does it assist women and young girls who are in difficulty?
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very critical point, and where women have fled Zimbabwe because of the economic situation. Perhaps before we proceed, let me just say it's raining heavily, and therefore my internet connectivity is very weak, and hence we have to use the phone. So women and girls have to cross the borders to go to the neighboring countries, particularly South Africa and Botswana, to make a living through menial jobs and other professional jobs. But by the expiry of the permits that are being referred to, most women would want to come back in Zimbabwe. And then let me say, as Young Women Christian Association, also known as YWCA, being an organization which is one of the oldest women's rights organizations in Zimbabwe, as it was founded in 1957. It exists to fight social, economic, and political injustices that prevail. Generally, we want to see women reaching their full potential. So as women come back to Zimbabwe, we as an organization, YWCA, will find it to ways and means to ensure that we rehabilitate, we also train those that need training, we link those that need linkages. We also consider the economic empowerment as our spine. As such, we wish for women to earn a living through clean means, and as such, we then work around how we can accept them, work with them, because we focus on everything about a woman, and particularly fighting poverty, which we saw as a key driver to some of the social problems that we have. So we exist in all the 10 provinces. We build office in Harare. As such, we are there, even on our Facebook. We welcome those that will be coming home. and we have activities that we have lined up even for 2023 that will help for women not to be idle, but to occupy them. Most importantly, we would want them to improve their economic status, but we also work with other organizations to ensure women are gainfully employed. So,
if I may just come in there, Ms. Cynthia Mukamuri, you're in Zimbabwe yourself. How credible are the fears being raised by those in South Africa, in terms of them returning to Zimbabwe, especially women?
What we want generally is a safer state, safe environment for women. Once the South Africans have Judula operations going on and there's an xenophobic attack, it is usually women and girls that suffer the most because there's usually violence that is perpetrated on them and some even being sexually abused. So it's better for them to come back home if they can. Once they come home, there are so many women's rights organizations that are ready to welcome them, so that at least we work together to see how they can find how they can earn a living here in Zimbabwe. We wish to have our children, our women, our girls, who are the most vulnerable in our society, to be safe. And we are also glad that the government has extended an olive branch for them to come, so that at least they get a welcome home, where we are here to receive them and then we help them to integrate them within society. It's never easy when a woman or a female person living out in where it's not safe. So it's better for them to come here. If they still want to go out wherever, they have to go after obtaining documents that enable them to live in foreign countries. Because generally, in Zimbabwe, we don't want to lie. Things are not easy. Basic of commodities continue to sky rockets where it's beyond the reach of many. And as you can see, that inflation continues to rise, even as salaries remain stagnant. So it's not easy as they come in. We want them to know that we are still struggling and grappling with what we have. That which makes them go away is still there. But perhaps when they come, the realistic issues that we are saying is they have to come prepared to work with us and then see how they can earn a living.
Thank you so much. Please stay on the line. I understand we have a live caller. Tine mutereri wedu atifonera Mai Mulambo vari South Africa. Makadi Mai Mulambo. Aiwa tiri wadi tipewo pfungwa dzenyu panyaya iyoyi yekuti imi muri kuSouth Africa izvo ikoko muri kuzvibata sei zvataona zvichiitika kuembassy nhasi avo vari kuti kune mabhazi evanoda kudzokera kumusha. Imi makamira sei, munozviona sei semudzimai?
Inini semudzimai zvinhu zvokuti zvinotishungurudzei kunzi tinzishoni takutora zvinhu zvedu tibude muno muSouth Africa, nekuti ndinoona kunge madzimai akawanda tanga tisati taready to go, nekuti tanga tisati tavaka kuZimbabwe. Saka semadzimai tinonoti shushukanei panyaya yekuti tinenge tiine vana tinozoshaya pekuti tigare. Zvakafanana nekuti wobva kuno kuSouth Africa uchienda kuZimbabwe unosvika kunotanga kusvika kumba kwaamwene kana kuti kutanga kusvika pamba pemunhu uchitanga kutonogara uri mumba memumwe munhu, chinhu chandinoona chinoremera munhukadzi kazhinji kudarika munhurume. Saka ine chikumbiro changu ndinenge ndichikumbira kuti saambassador vanga vachifanira kuti vagadzirisewo pekugara kuZimbabwe kuti vakwanise kuti vawawanise madzimai ari kudzoka kubva kuSouth Africa mastands nemutengo wakaderera.
Saka ndochamuri kuti imi dai mawana mukana wekuti hurumende ikunzwei kana kuti ambassador ndochanga chiri chikumbiro chenyu?
Yes, tiri kutopotera kuna ambassador kuti vaendese kuhurumende yedu kuti vakadzi vari kuSouth Africa vari kuchema nechichemo chekuti tiuye ikoko hatina pekugara. Mastenzi kuZimbabwe anodhura, they are expensive. Hapana asingazivi kuti stendi inodhura kutsvaga kuZimbabwe. Tinoda kuti vaitewo kuti mastendi aite mitengo yakaderera muguta kana kumaguta madiki kana kumagrowth point. Tiunowanawo pekupotera nevana vedu nevarume vedu tadzoka.
Saka pari zvino nemamiriro akaita zvino munoona muchizoita sei pachasvika June 30?
Takatoomerwa. Mabhazi hongu vari kupa zvawo free. Hapana chakangoipa sekudaro, but isi zvikutaura kuti munhukadzi wese havazokwanisi kutaura kuti no, tikuda kungoenda hedu kumusha, but chinhu chakaoma kuti kana waenda kumusha paunonosvikira pacho.
Okay.
Vakadzi havazokwanisa kuzvitaura. Ndo zvinonyanyoshusha vanhukadzi kudarika vanhurume. Vanhurume munoziziva kuti vanongoti chero zvazvaita nangu akanogara kuna mai vake, nangu akanogara pai, munhurume ari right. Kasi munhukadzi unenge une vana vaviri kana kuti vana vatatu, wongobva kuno uchiti uri kuenda unonoenda mumba mani. Ndo chimwe chiri kutinetsa. Saka isanga chikumbira hurumende yedu kuti itinzwisisewo kuti ikwanise kutipa mastenzi ane mutengo wakaderera.
Aiwa, mashoko makukutu. Tinokutendai chaizvo mai Mulambo vari kuSouth Africa.
Zvakanaka. Ndoda kuti happy birthday kune mukuru weCC vaNelson Chamisa.
Aiwa, taurai henyu mazwi enyu ekuvakorokotedza.
Tichiti maelections apedyo, chitiite kuti zvifambe.
Ya, muri ipapo manga muri kutarira here zvanga zviri kuitika panyaya yeBelarus? Munoona kushanya kwemutungamiri weBelarus kuZimbabwe uchizobatsira here nyika?
Tisingazivi, nokuti zvimwe togona kuti hazvibatsire, pamwe zvichaitawo kakubatsira mbichana. But takazviona kakawanda, but pasina chatinobatsirikana nacho. Saka hatingashori hedu, pamwe zvichabatsira.
Aiwa, tinotenda chaizvo mai Mulambo. Regai tiende zvedu kuvanyarikani vedu. Let's go back to Miss Zimbudzana. Miss Zimbudzana, you heard what our caller there was saying. She says that she's really willing to go home, but the biggest issue is the issue of where to stay when she gets to Zimbabwe. Are these some of the issues that you as an organization have been taking up with some of the authorities in Zimbabwe?
These are some of the issues that people have come to us and told us that the time frame that they were given to leave South Africa is so short that they then cannot. Most of them had not prepared for their departure from the Republic of South Africa, so they then cannot go back to Zimbabwe as it stands. We unfortunately have not been able to speak with the authorities in Zimbabwe on this issue because we, as you can see, the issues that Zimbabweans in South Africa are grappling with are so intense that we didn't have then a chance to then put in an advocate's word to the authorities in Zimbabwe. But it is an issue that most women and also men have raised with us that they...
Thank you so much. I'm going to have to cut you off there and then just ask Mai Mukamuri to give us, where can people find you if they want to know more about your organization online?
Thank you, Madeline. We are in all the 10 provinces, but the head office is in Harare at 189 Westwood Drive in Westwood. But we also have presence and offices in Lawayo, along 9th Avenue between Ebert Tepo and Lubengula.
And online?
Online, we are at the YWC account of Zimbabwe Facebook, and then on Twitter at YWC.